I want to go over questions that I've gotten through email. And then if you have other questions, we'll stop and ask. And then we're doing notes for section 1.2. There is a homework for section 1.1. And I might extend to the due date because only a few people from class, 10 or 11 people, have created their homework account. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But for those of you who still need to make your homework account, we'll give you a little extra time on that assignment. There will be no homework for 1.2. There were only a few questions and I didn't really like the questions. So we're going to go over definitions from that section, but skip the homework. I'm going to rename that assignment. It says exercises 1.1. We're going to call it homework 1.1 like this. Okay, so that's in my lab. We're going to skip homework for 1.2. Now, I want to talk about creating a MyLab account. So one of the questions was, and I pulled it up. So I created a little temporary online, or a temporary email, and then I made my own account. And oops, I got to this page. Cool. And a few of you put this picture with me too. Okay, so I went to my lab. I created an account, and then after successfully creating an account and setting up a password, and by the way, your username is your email. So, and you can use your school email or personal email. It's up to you. Okay, there's this side here, access code. Unfortunately, I did not get free access this semester, so I don't have an access code for you. If you buy a book from the bookstore, it's possible it comes with an access code. So that's one option, but you don't have to buy the book. Okay, over here on this side, this is access to my lab for either 24 months or 18 weeks. I say pick the cheaper option. It covers one semester, so go with the 18-week choice. And there's a price down here, but depending on if you buy it, I don't know if the bookstore price matches or not, but it costs about $85. I asked the stats director and he said it could cost up around or just below $100. Let's see what this does. Okay, it's asking me to pay. And then you would be paying with your own money, like a debit card or credit card. So let's come back out. So I say choose the 18-week option. Or if you're not sure about the class, choose the free trial. And then later, wait, let me go back. There should be a free trial. Probably in very tiny writing. I feel like at the bottom of that page in tiny writing was probably something that said use a free trial. Oh no. Okay, I need just a moment to try this again. Thanks for being patient. Okay, cool. Back. And then I hear some clicking, which is a little distracting. So if you wouldn't mind putting yourself on mute, but if you have a question, just unmute and feel free to ask. Okay, so I'm talking about how to create your homework account. And if you reach this page, you have options. And then there's this 18-week option, which I suggest. But then we're going to scroll down and see what happens. Yeah, see right down here. Waiting for financial aid, or you're just unsure about the class? Get temporary access without payment for 14 days. So you can use access for 2 weeks. After that, you'll have to pay for access. Or is once you create your account and log in, from then on, from that day forward, you have 14 days of free use. So actually, before buying it, I would go here and get temporary access. Okay. 18 weeks is about $100. I do not have an access code for you. I'm asking for you to pay for access. I do have a class code, but you shouldn't need it to create your account. I've already seen other students create their account without the class ID. But if that's an issue, just let me know. Is it 2 S's? I'm a bad speller. Access code. All right. It says I need a class code. Oh, a class code. All right, let me see what my class ID is. I just want to be sure that it's okay for me to share the class ID, like it doesn't give you instructor access or anything. Once I have checked that, I'll send it or post it today for the whole class. I know where the class ID is. I'm just not confident that I don't know. I was told not to share it with the students, but maybe I do need to. I'm just going to go ahead and look it up. Step 1-. Okay, course ID is it's all lowercase with Walker. E7543. WALKER 37543. And I will still put that as an announcement on campus. I'm gonna check that those were answers to all of the homework questions. And I'll see if you have questions. So yeah, it was told to or suggested that you use the 18-week trial. It costs about $100. There's the course ID. Anything I'm missing? Or any questions or concerns? Oh no. Okay. And if I have a thing that says you weren't allowed access after putting in the class code, I think it'd be good if you meet with me or send an email to me so that we can meet. But or after class, we can take a peek at it together. But I also want to let you know that it's probably necessary that you go to your Canvas account and then click on the MyLab button and then create your account, and then they should be linked. And I don't think you would need the ID. But I just suggest that maybe you stay after class and we try to figure this out together. Okay. I'm going to start doing some notes. This section is called Simple Random Sampling. Okay, so in statistics, we're gathering information from a group, which is going to be called the whole group, the population, or part of the group, which is your sample. And we do that so we can learn more about that group. And there are 3 ways to obtain information from your group. First one is a census. Okay, so it's a list of all of the individuals in your group, along with characteristics or information about each individual. So I think a census was recently done where people went house to house collecting information from the population. I think, I don't know if it was a US census or a California census, but I just remember people going around my neighborhood asking each house to complete a survey. Okay, so let's say you want to do a study and you need information from a group. Start by looking up data from the past. Let's see if anyone else has already done a study, if we can use those results and not start from the beginning, not start from scratch. If no one's collected data like that before, then you need to go and collect it on your own. So to collect that data yourself, you sample, and there are different types of sampling. Also, a census may have been done, or you may need to do a new census. Little note about a census. Since you need information from every single individual, sometimes that might not be possible. It might cost a lot of money or take a long time or be impractical, or impossible. Number two, if we choose sampling, you need to decide how to select the sample. In the next section, we'll talk about different sampling methods. But for any method, you want your sample to be representative of the population. So you want it to be, if a sample is used to draw conclusions about the population, it should be representative, which means it should reflect as closely as possible the relevant characteristics of the population. By the way, this whole section pretty much is definitions. We do a little bit of math at the end of 1.2 notes, but really it's just a lot of vocabulary. So representative sample is a sample that reflects as closely as possible the relevant characteristics of the population. Okay, and the book mentions that mostly what we're doing, or most of the time in this class, we'll be using a sample. And also, unless we as a class do our own study, our own experiment, the sample will be already found for us. So we'll be given a table of information that was found through someone else doing the study and choosing the sample and getting that data. Okay, the third one here says experimentation, where we use some kind of designed experiment, and we're going to go further into that, I think in section 1.4. So in this section, all they mentioned is the other option is experimentation, and they said we'll talk about it later. I'm pretty sure they mean do a designed experiment, but just to be safe, I'm going to write down like experimentation, and we'll talk about it later. And check really fast if I can find it quickly. Okay, it just says 2 methods other than a census for obtaining information are sampling and experimentation. In this book, we concentrate on sampling. However, we introduce experimentation in section 1.4 and talk about it throughout the semester, sometimes throughout the semester. So let me see what's in 1.4, which we'll do notes on soon. We're mostly like going section by section through the book with a goal of reaching chapter 14, but we'll see what happens. So just talking about running an experiment. I think you would do that to your sample, so I'm a little confused. Well, maybe that is the case. I think that with experimentation, you have to choose your sample, and then once you've got your sample, do an experiment with that sample. Okay, let's back up to 1.2. Okay, so those are the different ways to gather information. And I have notes on what probability sampling is. So in order to create your sample, we often use probability sampling where we choose some device. The book said a random device, but that sounds like randomly pick something. I think what they mean is a device that creates randomness, like flipping a coin. You get heads or tails, but you don't know which one's what the result's gonna be, if it's heads or tails. Where there's random number generators, there's random letter generators. Before having stuff like that, people used tables of random numbers and just kind of close your eyes and pick one and see what happened. Okay, most sampling procedures probability sampling. So let's say there's two people in the study and I want to pick one of them. So we'll say this person's represented by heads and this one's by tails, and then I flip a coin and whatever lands, that's the person I pick. Or maybe there's like 10 people and they give each person a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 10. And then I go and Google random number generator and have a limit between 1 and 10, and then click, and it gives me some random number. And like, let's say it gives me 7, I pick a person number 7 from the group to be in my sample. I mentioned before, there's also random letter generators too. So maybe each person's represented by a letter. Then you use that device, like on Google, to pick one of those letters at random. As a side note, I also like using these random number generators and random letter generators to create my passwords, because it helps to make something totally strange that I would have never thought to make. And I mentioned using a table. That's what the homework looked like. It was a bunch of, it was trying to choose a sample from a population by using a table of random numbers. It's a bit difficult to explain, and it's also not a very popular, I don't think it's a very popular method anymore. So we're just not gonna go too deep into that idea, but it is there. So you just have a list of tons of numbers. You pick a place to start at the list, and you just go down the list, selecting people that would be in your sample. Oh yeah, and then as a side note, like when I mentioned like using these generators to create passwords, I just write it down on paper so I don't forget, but also keep it private so that no one else knows. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll use things that I like and then other people might be able to guess. Okay, let's get back to it. I think there's 2 more important parts of these notes and then some examples. Oh, never mind. There's a big topic, then 2 parts of that topic, and then we're pretty much done. The big topic is called simple random sampling, which we're going to use throughout the semester. There's an acronym, which you might see on the homework. I'll use it sometimes because it saves time. SRS, simple random sampling. It is a sampling procedure in which each possible sample of a given size is equally likely to be obtained. every sample of a certain size has the same chance as being selected as all the other samples. Obtained or selected, either one. And then once you do simple random sampling and you've got your sample, that sample is called a simple random sample. Simple random sampling, SRS. Okay, now these are the important parts of this section. These are terms that we're going to use in the future when we do experiments and when we work together on worksheets. Okay, there's a simple random sampling with replacement. So you pick an individual from your population, record something about that person or item, and then you put it back. And then you randomly select someone else, including that person. Let me say it like this. Let's say you have a bag of marbles and you choose a marble and you record its color and then you put it back in the bag. And then you shake everything up and you pick a different marble and you record the color and you put it back in the bag. So that's with replacement. There's two types of simple random sampling. First type, I would probably just write the whole thing out, but there is an acronym in the book. It's SRSWR. Simple random sampling with replacement. This is where a member of the population can be selected more than once. The other one is simple random sampling without replacement.
Professor Walker. So I have a question. When you're doing simple random sampling with replacement, you're picking a member of the population and that member is the sample, or are you picking a member of the sample?
Kind of the first one. When you pick
Okay.
a member, they will be a part of the sample.
Okay. Gotcha.
We're going to do examples too. Okay. Here's the first of you. The other one. This one's acronym is SRS, simple random sampling without replacement. Two types, blah, 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 that one. And member population simple interesting. Okay, we'll use SRS for this as well. And I think that's because we're going to be using, well, let's see. Yeah, it says, unless we specify otherwise, assume that simple random sampling is done without replacement. Okay, I've got two examples. A population of 5 people includes Angel, Bob, Casey, Dana, and Evan. Let A represent Angel. Use B for Bob. C for Casey, D for Dana, E for Evan. So we talked about the population being the set of all of the people in the study. So we're going to write this list of names as a set. So the population oh, we're out of time. Okay, we'll set this up and we'll come back later to find samples. Thank you for the correction. The population is the set. You start a set with a curly bracket. And then list each person once. A, comma B, comma C, comma D, comma E, and then close the set with a curly bracket. Then we're out of time, so we'll come back later and pick samples of size 2. And then maybe samples of size 3 and do more examples. Anyway, thank you for coming to class.